In this week's Louisiana Speaks, a three-judge panel is set to hear arguments about Louisiana's newest congressional map. The map makes big changes, particularly to Congressman Garrett Graves' seat in the 6th District. I sat down with Congressman Graves to talk about that and other hot topics in Washington. So let's start with the obvious question. The challenge to your district, the redrawing of the congressional map. Where do you stand in terms of your political plans, given that your district, if this sticks, will no longer look like your district?
Sure. Well, look, first of all, I don't think districts should be about people or drawn around people, myself or anyone else. There are three criteria the courts require. One of them is compactness. Another one is racial, and the third one is communities of interest. The worst thing about the maps that they drew is that it breaks up the capital region into 4 different districts. I think the courts throw out this map and ultimately bring some more common sense back to what these maps look like, and if they have a capital-centric district, I'll run, and that's what I expect to happen. As you know, they go to trial in early April, and I think they'll make a decision very quickly.
So your feeling is that this map, as it stands, will not stick?
I don't think there's a chance in the world it does.
I'm a member of your district, and I recently sat in on your town hall meeting. That's the phone call constituents can get on where you bring them up to date. And I'll tell you what dominated the conversation. The Social Security Fairness Act. There is a huge public outcry in the state of Louisiana about the unfairness of this. You are one of the many co-authors of legislation to repeal, which it's a long name. It is the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset.
Yeah.
Where are we at with that?
Yeah, so actually we're the lead. It's our bill. And so first of all, top line, what happened is, over 40 years ago, Congress came in and they tried to fix what was arguably sort of a double recovery or a double compensation for retirement. When they did that, they actually swung the pendulum so far in the other direction. If you're a teacher, police officer, firefighter, a public employee, you actually have your Social Security cut when you retire. And so just, for fairness purposes, if you and I both worked and we both paid in the Social Security, same amount of time, same dollars and everything else, but if I worked in the public sector and you worked in the private sector, my Social Security benefits would be cut for working in the public sector. It was a flawed drafting of the law back in the late 70s and early 80s. We have a bill. Again, we're the lead on the bill. It's bipartisan. We right now have 311 co-sponsors out of 435 members of Congress.
So realistically, do you think in the near future we'll get it pushed out of committee and to a vote?
I do. Look, I don't want to mislead anybody. Folks have been trying to fix this for 40 years, and they've gotten pretty much nowhere. We are near a high water mark for the most progress ever on this bill. If you add up everybody in all 50 states that are affected, Louisiana is one of the most affected in the country. So if it were easy to do this, it would have been done a long time ago. But because it implicates tens of billions of dollars over decades, we've got to make sure we do this in a thoughtful way. Now, the argument back is you've stolen from these people for 40 years now. If this were happening in the private sector, it would be embezzling. Congress thinks that they can just call it budgeting and get away with it. But that's the biggest problem. I do think we can get this bill done.
So on the subject of the 118th Congress, it has been reported that it is the least productive Congress since the Great Depression. President Biden just signed a $1.2 trillion package of spending bills, but that took 6 months. Yeah. And we've seen multiple House speakers. We finally landed on Mike Johnson. A lot of political turmoil in this 118th Congress. What are your thoughts? What is happening?
It is actually worse up close, meaning what you see on TV, I think, in some cases doesn't show how bad it is. So look, first of all, top line, you've got a president who's a Democrat. You have a very, very slim Republican majority in the House, which of course causes tension. And then you have Chuck Schumer with a majority of Democrats in the United States Senate. So when you have a mix of parties like that, it does cause tension. But the bigger problem that we're seeing right now are actually different factions of Republicans within the House of Representatives that are knifing one another.
You brought up something really interesting. There's been a lot of talk about Latin Americans crossing over into the border illegally, but you're also seeing an influx of Asian? illegal immigrants?
It is remarkable. Actual Chinese illegal immigrants have been the fastest rising sort of demographic that's coming in. But we have had more people on the terrorist watch list come in recent years than any other time in history. Folks coming in from Yemen, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and of course this surge in Chinese immigrants. It is changing what we're seeing. You know, I think many of us thought that these were folks coming from Mexico or maybe Central America, South America, but we are seeing a totally different approach or a totally different demographic that's beginning to come in across the southern border. We've got to secure the border. Every border agent I spoke to said you have to return to the policy of the previous administration. But two things that are important there. The United States is actually the most generous country in the world when it comes into letting people into their country legally through the legal immigration process. We're not anti-immigrant. We're pro doing it the legal way. And so I think we need to be careful about suggesting we want to close the doors and never let anyone in. That's not the case. We want to let people in through the legal process.
I want to hear your thoughts, given all your experience with CPRA. I want to hear your thoughts about Governor Landrieu's proposal to put the CPRA under the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, that whole reorganization.
Yeah. So look, on the one hand, I think it's always appropriate. You have a new governor, new administration, come in and take a fresh look at things. That's fine. I think it would be a colossal mistake to move that coastal agency under the Department of Natural Resources. Look, here's the thing. The CPRA was created as a result of Hurricane Katrina. After all of these expert after the fact investigations and reports that were done that found you had this disjointed mission. You had levee districts, parishes, state agencies. Everybody had a piece of the pie. No one was actually controlling, thinking about the vision, the path forward, the metrics of success. That's why CPRA was created. Today, it's viewed as the most successful coastal agency, resilience agency in the United States. In a state, why in the world you would come in and blow that up and put it back under an agency that has so many other responsibilities? It's gonna be sort of pushed down in urgency. Look, what we're experiencing in coastal Louisiana continues to be a crisis. This needs to be the first, second, and third most important thing of a cabinet secretary.
Garrett Graves of the 6th District. Thanks for
you.
stopping by, bringing us up to date with what's going on in Congress and, of course, here in your own district.
You bet. Thank you.